Okay, welcome back. One announcement. There will be no book study next Monday.
Oh, no, for the holiday.
Yes. Yeah. It's another break, but it's okay. It's big feast or holiday. All right, so we are now on paragraph number 17.
Oh, I had 16.
16th, I'm sorry. 16. All right. Oh, I wanted to push it ahead a little bit. What?
It's a good paragraph.
Yes, it is.
Ready? Okay. With those who live in the world and are associated with the material things that feed the passions, the demons wage war through practical activities. While with those who dwell in the wilderness, where material things are rare, they fight by troubling them with evil thoughts. This second mode of warfare is far more difficult to cope with, for warfare through things requires a specific time and place and a fit occasion. Whereas warfare of the intellect is mercurial and hard to control. But as our trusty weapon in this incorporeal fight, we have been given pure prayer. That is why we are told to pray without ceasing. Prayer strengthens the intellect in the struggle, since it can be practiced even without the body taking part.
So there are these spiritual laws which we cannot ignore. And because if we don't respect this wisdom, which is given to us through these holy fathers who discovered this mechanism which we can find in spiritual life, by ignoring that, we in the better case we go to stagnation in our spiritual life, or in the worst case we can really come to death of our spiritual life, that we become only somehow Christians who just come for a liturgy on Sunday or feast and they keep some customs connected with tradition than faith. So we have to respect what these laws are saying to us. And I think that Theodoros gives us now one spiritual law in this. And even this, his advice or this wisdom he gives us, shows us that in the spiritual life there are steps. One step follows another. You cannot jump in spiritual life. There are so many people who, after they experience this touch of grace and respond to this, so they are like full of fire, and they have for sure they feel that they can do a lot of things for God. They can acquire virtues and everything, and they really jump and they try to live on the level where they are not yet. And if those people don't ask for some kind of, or they don't search for guidance, they don't search for some spiritual father, I would say, or if they don't listen, they will really, this is like straw. You can burn very fast. It can burn very, very fast, but very fast it goes to nothing. And there's always some kind of problem which people have. It is different. I think that if family tries to live spiritual life from like non-stop. So then children, they grow naturally, and they are forming their hearts through this participation on life of family. So they are protected against this. But what is if family is not doing that, so then for sure, especially young people, grace in life of children, when they come to age when they are ready to make decisions for themselves in this area of faith. So in Theophan the Recluse, he says that God gives this grace, awakening grace. This is a specific moment in life of people. Usually, and most commonly, it comes like during within 16 and 20 years this year or later. It depends. Even later, if some people are in bad environment, not around Christians, but everybody, he says, everybody gets this free grace, awakening grace, and which forces person to respond, to make this decision. If a person makes this decision for God, so this grace is acting in him and leads him. If person says no to this grace, this awakening grace, he says that second time he will not, or the person will not get this grace easily and freely. That person has to beg, pray, ask God for this, like grace, awakening grace. It's terrifying, and when I was reading this, his teaching about that, which came from practical experience of many saints, at first I didn't agree somehow inside, but then thinking about many cases, many people, I knew it perfectly fits. So it is amazing how we have to be, especially parents, grandparents, how we have to be careful how we lead our children, may they are ready to respond correctly on this awakening grace, which forces this child to come from faith, which was they were fed by parents in this life with God, to some kind of individual decision. And it is always tough moment, and role of parents is really to lead the child that way, that in that moment child is making correct decision. But if this moment comes for a child or young person who was not formed in family in correct way, so then this zeal comes, because this grace really makes this fire. The person experiences this grace as a huge zeal for God, and the person is able to pray even hours, or to do easily a lot of things for God, and really it is like drug, I would say, spiritual, but it is always it is danger, because in that state he can, or the person can make jump and not to pay attention to his first steps, which have to be done. And Theodore tells us that if we live in world, so we are subjects of these temptations which come from the world, material things. The demons attack us through activity of our practical life. And actually this is the first step. I was talking yesterday about that, I think. Yesterday about detachment from the world. That this is necessary to make myself free from the world. And if I participate in this world in this wide scale, so then I will lose the battle. Doesn't matter how huge this fire which grace causes in us. If I stay in the world and I follow worldly things, this fire will be gone. And I missed the opportunity. But even we who are probably who we made this decision to live with God and to walk on the path to salvation, we have to be careful too, because if we are involved in this in those activities of the world, we will be dry spiritually very soon. And from that we are making steps towards lethargy and ignorance and some kind of minimum of some kind of spiritual life. And we have to be very careful, because sometimes even like things which are coming to our life when we cannot somehow, it's not that we are searching for some kind of fun of some kind of just easy life. Sometimes these things, a situation which life is bringing to us, can cause this can kill this fire in us. I remember this. It was very strong experience for me when we were changing this air condition and heating system in the church and rectory. So, the rectory was like destroyed almost. It was horrible. Well, everything was destroyed, each room. And, it was from middle of August to Thanksgiving. And so during this time we lived always like morning we covered bed with plastic, and evening we uncovered, and it was, and every day you had these guys were going ups and down and everywhere and doing things. And even you tried to keep some kind of routine. And I'm thinking, I felt that, I am really dry spiritually. They took a huge toll, big toll on me, my spiritual life, because I realized how easy it is that those things which come to your life, and if you are really not careful, and I was not, because, I thought that just keeping that some kind of routine I had before, it will be okay, I will be okay. But no, you have to realize that in these times when there are so many other impulses, you have to increase your attention and to arrange your life that way which would protect you. And now we are talking only about things which are worldly, we don't consider as a sin, just things which afflict us in our spiritual life. And they bring change sometimes to our life, and it causes that our zeal for God goes down, or sometimes even disappears. But then we have impulses which are really attacks of temptations, like sinful passions, sinful things, and those are all attacks on us. So we have to be very careful what we are doing, that, and it has to be always some kind of discernment before I'm going somewhere, doing something, or I want to enter to some kind of community of people, and I have to ask how huge influence it will have on my spiritual life, on my life with God. And this is something what is important. I would say that the same way as we consider like dangers for our body, what to eat, we don't eat something what can be poisoned, or what kind of food we eat, or we don't expose ourselves to dangerous situation which can destroy our body or bring some kind of harm or accident. In the same way, we should look at our soul and protect soul. The same way as we don't eat, we wash vegetable and fruit before we eat, because we don't want to bring harm to our body. And in the same way, we have to somehow wash each thought which comes to or impulse which comes to our body. And those who are, as we don't eat rotten strawberries and other stuff, we should not consume rotten like situations or impulses which are coming from the world. And this is a battle we are in the world, and it will probably never stop. And if we acquire some kind of ability to protect ourselves, so then we will enter to this arena how these monks are. They left everything. They left world. They left everything to go to desert, because they wanted to grow in this perfectness, holiness. And Theodoros says, well, they are not safe there, because, there are not attacks in this desert area, is not coming from world, but coming from heart. It is these spiritual passions which attacked them.
It reminded me of sometimes the elders will tell stories about situations that were rotten. That illustration, that word picture is helping me, because in their spiritual level they've achieved a fire of charity for all men, but yet they also have this discernment that not every situation can be intervened into. And rottenness kind of gives me a little insight into what they're discerning, that we should be willing to do anything to help others for salvation, but there are some things that we should not get involved in, because they would just bring harm. So, dealing with us living in the world and trying to be a good witness and good influence, that may be what this elder Theodoros is talking about.
Good.
You reminded me of something somewhat like that. Not too long ago, actually it was more than 5 years ago, I got invited to a group of people that were at a parish talking with their parish priest for like 20 years on spiritual development and things like that. So I sat there and was listening to everything, and as it got going, the parents started getting more you know, I go to daily mass, and I do this, and I do that, and they're going listing all these things that they do, but their family life was in turmoil. Their kids were this, their kids were doing this, you know, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and it just turned completely on this poor priest who was a very holy priest. And it started to become pointing their fingers at the priest. You're not teaching our kids. You're not helping our kids. This is it. It was bad to the point where I was ready to say something, and he did it pretty brilliantly. He turned around and he asked all of them, you know, all of you that are complaining about this, where are you right now in your spiritual life? Is it any different than where you were a year ago and a year before that? And he kept going back and asking me questions, and you could hear a pin drop, you know, in the room. And then he says, if that's what you're doing, he says, then you're actually treading water. You're stagnant. Why would your kids want to go tread water with you? Wouldn't they want to swim with you and get in a boat with you and do this with you? He says, that's what you're doing to them spiritually by not improving and looking interiorly at yourself. And let me tell you, within about 30 minutes, the whole room changed. You know, the atmosphere changed. It went from anger and frustration to, what should I be doing better each day? What should I do, you know, to improve my life and improve my children's life? So I see those similar in what he's writing about, the traps.
Thank you for saying that, because, well, this brings me, maybe I will connect with this conversation we had before meeting, that it's difficult to follow this wisdom, this spiritual law, because, well, we all feel that there is a lot of things, impulses in the world which are hard, you know, or dangerous for spiritual life. And I think that this is something that we should keep in our mind, that we need these islands when we can go and to have safe space. And I think that parishes should create this. You know, I think that it was yesterday when we had this men's group meeting, and it was, I was really went like encouraged from the meeting, because it not only what was said, it was good stuff, but I had a good feeling that, okay, if we have fathers who are thinking this way, and they have this view on spiritual life, so it means they form children this way. And I was leaving, and I saw these little guys on playground with mothers, and they were playing, and they were having good time, and you could see this mix, you know, like they were all friends, you know. So, well, Juliana asked me to fill her like water gun, you know, and because she was together with these boys and others, you know, that they were fighting, they were doing something. I think this is amazing, you know, that if we are able to create this good environment, not only to meet for liturgy, but like to create this environment when families can meet and they support each other too, because even families, they need to have company, to meet somebody, they need to be with somebody. It's not their islands, but to go and to meet. It's great if that you can, like, if kids can play here together, and while ladies are talking about ladies things and men are talking about men's things, and it is always good when I am like one part of this discussion, and it's always like good stuff, encouraging stuff, and so it gives me like hope, you know, that, well, it's going well And I think that, but we have to do it even with this intention to help each other to create this environment when we can be and without like some kind of fear that there will be bad influence for us, for our children. I think that we are supposed to start to build again this Christian culture on real fundamentals. And I think that more and more people are interested about to do this. And I think that we put good foundation. Now it seems that something's growing. So I would like to encourage, to take this aspect to consideration, to do it with this intention, and to really because this forms these little guys too. All right. Do you want? Okay, good.
You started to talk about it a little bit with like discernment and trying to get worldly things out of our lives. I think some of us are going to be in the world like more than others. That just depends on like what their specific calling in this world is. And some people aren't great at discernment either, at least not at first. How should people go about that discernment? Should they try it first with like a spiritual father and like work from there, or? Well, especially because, sometimes people go too far like one way with extremes, like they won't, like some people will get to a point where they won't want to do any recreational activity because they'll think it's worldly or something like that.
Well, there is a Saint Simeon, the new theologian. He teaches that when he talks about this moment when a person is some kind of awakened by grace and enters to spiritual life, he says that if this inclination towards God, the first gift he gets, the person, is fear of God. It means that this fear of God pushes that person to follow God's will. And in the same level, he gives advice to a person. He said, at that moment, the second thing he has to do, or first things, is to find a spiritual father. It's not something what we would expect. Okay, it's try to pray or try to read scripture or something. No, he said, go and find spiritual father. Saint Theophan de Reclus, when he talks to parents about raising children, he says that the first friend of your child should be father. Father should be the first and the big and the most serious friend. Second is spiritual father. And he adds, if that person needs more friends, God will give it. But usually it's enough. Physical father and spiritual father. And now, when this is correctly done, nobody teaches that. This is horrible, that in this our formation, especially for this was new for me, Well, I'm sorry, but when I read that, and but it makes sense, because then you are entering to this formation, and if you have like friend of father and spiritual father, Hey, Helen, she's waving at me. Hi, you are so cute. Oh. So then you are sharing life with your spiritual father, and then he would tell you, don't do this, avoid this, or would give you structure to your life, and this is what helps you to make this discernment, and not to make some kind of radical, crazy decisions. Does it make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, now it doesn't. We don't have a lot of really good spiritual fathers, but as Brianchino told us, that because in these times we are suffering from that we don't have enough spiritual fathers, so holy fathers are our guide. So we should listen to them and to go. And I think that, but everybody who searches for spiritual father, he will find, because God takes care of his people. Now there was like question that about our like situation in church, that many sacraments like confessions are not very often done. Many people don't make confessions, that even like, and it was some kind of discussion after a lecture I was listening, and then in discussion this theme came, or this topic came, and there was like reminder that one elder said when he was, I think it was spicy from Anatos, but I'm not sure. He was asked why this time, why God doesn't give us these elders, and he answered that where there is no disciples, there is no elders. Okay, so and this was used. His answer was used during this discussion. It was, and the priest said that we are somehow we are horrified that there is not a lot of priestly vocations. But if there is no demand, so there is no vocations. Vocation is a gift, vocation from God. But look, if people want just maintenance, if they want, to have liturgy served on Sunday, and they want priests for weddings, funerals, and baptisms, so for sure, even one priest can satisfy 2,000 people. But that one priest cannot be spiritual father for 2,000 people. So this, like, I think, like parish is like maximum like 300 people. It's maximum, I would say. This would be tough if there is a real life in parish. For one priest, it would be too much for one priest, 300 people. But we have to really. This is what God gives us. If we have this need, He would give us more. And I'm sure that this is true. Because everybody who searches finds. God brings that somehow through Holy Fathers or through... God takes care of us. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Did I answer your question? I forgot what you asked. But if I answer, I talk too much. All right. Well, okay, let's continue.
With reference to the perfect mortification of the passions, St. Paul says that they are Christ's, have crucified the flesh together with the passions and desires. For when we mortify the passions, utterly destroy desires, and subjugate the will of the flesh to the Spirit, we take up the cross and follow Christ. For withdrawal from the world is nothing else but the mortification of the passions and the manifestation of the life that is hidden in Christ.
So, actually, he continues in this previous, wisdom paragraph, and he answers when we are thinking about how far I should go with this paying attention to the world or this detachment from the world. He said, well, up to cross. This is there is no limit. And he says that we have to destroy all these passions which are coming from which are awakened by world. We have to destroy all of them, and it might be very, very hard, very hard, and very painful. Not only painful that we will need to deny ourselves, but painful that we will be losing even pleasures, which many times seems innocent and even good for us. We will be losing friends, relatively friends, people we are hanging out, that many times. And many things which we can consider as some kind of lost in our life. But this is a way of Christian life. Christianity is an ascetical religion. It is not a religion based on emotions. When we wait, when something is awakening us, when we have okay, today is the day when I feel that I should pray. I feel this is wonderful, moment. Inside my soul is situation that this would be good to pray today, and we enjoy this some kind of melancholy in our heart, and then we tell ourselves how great Christians we are, But it means even like prayer life, this spiritual law, this rule which we have, it's tough. To get up every morning and to start day with prayer, and to finish and during day with prayer, and to be somehow through prayer, short prayer, to raise mind towards God. It's tough. I can imagine, evening, I have so many things to do and to read and to watch or to arrange. Instead of prayer, it's really, you have to force yourself, it is. And how many times it is, for priests that, I have to go, we have a liturgy. And it is difficult to go in some moments for a liturgy, because it is not only this 1 hour. You go and you prepare yourself, you prepare gifts, you start to pray, and so it is this preparation takes almost 2 hours, that until liturgy starts. And sometimes you're not in the mood to do this, So, I'm making too hard about it. But it is. I think that all aspects which are connected with our spiritual life, all aspects requires cross. When we have to deny our will, because we are going against this inclination which is in our soul after fall, inclination towards evil. So to live spiritual life, it's to go uphill, and it's difficult, and especially for children, it is quite difficult to accept it, and many times it is difficult, and then it is difficult for parents because they feel that, well, they are not doing good things to their children. I was reading, then I recalled, like during summertime, when I was growing up, it was very close to Hungary, and it's like 20 minutes to get to the city, first city on Hungarian part, and close to the city. It was like, well, if I say water park, it would be too much. Well, there was like set of pools with thermal water. Hungary has a lot of this places where is thermal water. Each pool has different temperature water, and it was a simple place at the time, but well, for us it was like great, and usually many people they went there on Sundays. Well, it was easy, but like, and during Sundays you had to have liturgies like very early morning, like government order, because of harvest. You cannot block people because they need to work on fields. So communists gave order that liturgy must start like at 8 o'clock. That it was 2 hours earlier. So usually people went on the earliest liturgy, which was, and then they went to Hungary, and I was so jealous. And so I said, well, we can go too. And my father, no, we have afternoon, there are vespers. No way to go. The Sunday was like no go. And it was each summer, I remember when I was a small child, I was sad. I think on Sunday, my friends are there, At that time it was cheap. Very cheap to go there and to pay, so a lot of people were going there. It was close by. And I know that now, when I became father and I was saying no to requests of meal, I know how painful it is. When you say, even to, because of some kind of religious duties, or something, you say no to requests of children, and especially this is relatively innocent, but there are activities which, it might be dangerous for children. So you say no, but you are suffering. There's a pain. But we have to understand this, because without that, we are not growing. And to think that we can create some kind of easygoing religion and life in parish and spiritual life, that it will bring us some kind of new people to the parish, it's not working. And I think that we went through this temptation here, I think, in America. When I came here, and I was told that, well, you have to take care to have a lot of activities in parish which can attract people. And I remember Father Michael Hajduk, when we were here first month, and so we lived upstairs, and so he really took us to every place was possible to see, to have experience. So we attended festivals, when we attend church festivals, church activities, it was something very new for me. And I said, well, this is way how to do things. Okay, I have to adjust. And in some way, I was impressed, by that. But even this is important. But we have, as a parish, we have this experience because I cannot. There will be very long list when I came here and we started so many activities. It was almost like marathon. Really, almost each Sunday something, and we spent so much money on advertising these things, inviting people, and people were coming, and even like this, like ladies that are selling cabbage rolls and fundraising. How many people are coming here for that? It's amazing. Always new people. But they come for food, and none of those people came. Even they came for these activities, nobody was impressed with parish that, okay, let's enter, let's come here and be fed spiritually. And it was nice. One lady, when we are making cabbage rolls on Tuesdays, every other, it's tough. I can tell you, it's not easy. And everybody who leaves from this space on Tuesday leaves with nice perfume. Because if you go out or you are leaving, everybody smells cabbage rolls. And one lady, she told me that when we finished here, this making cabbage rolls, so she told me that, she went to post office here in Barberton, and I don't know what she was, but that gentleman behind the desk, he smelled cabbage rolls. He said, "Oh, you are from St. Nicholas." And it was funny, but then I told myself, shame on us. If we are known because of cabbage rolls, shame on us. We should be known through, in different way. And but this is some kind, we see parish life here. And I think that it's really time to leave this idea. Yes, we need this fundraising is great, and actually even this making cabbage rolls, it creates community. Well, it's fantastic, that it's I like that. And it is so many times there are a lot of discussions over making cabbage rolls, good discussions. But more it is about this creating this building community. But we cannot stay here, and we did it. We left this path, and I think that from the time we started to feel experience that we started to grow slowly, but still we are growing. And these are experience that you might 2 or 3 years ago, when was then this elder Ephraim from Arizona died. Do you remember this story? In Arizona, he came from Mount Athos because his friends or fans, because he was sick, so they paid for him surgery or procedure here in America. So he came and he had this surgery. He went through this procedure, but while he was recovering, he was seeing what is going on in churches, and he said, "Well, America needs monasteries." Oh, America, he meant Orthodox Church experience. So he decided to stay here in America and to start monastery. And there's a lot of nice stories how we found this first monastery in Arizona. But there's another fun story with that. Well, anyway. But when he died, at the time he founded 19 monasteries in North America, America, United States and Canada. 19 monasteries. And they are filled with really young generation of monks. A very strict monastery, because this way of life is the same as among Athos. And when he died, so there was like a story, or there was on the internet, there was like this comment of one priest from Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson.
Okay. And he wrote that for years, this Greek Orthodox Church, that we were trying to attract people to come to church through festivals, good food, good times, fun. And he said, we didn't think about monasteries because, well, we don't need that, because we had great plans, programs, which were done with excellent people. We had really structure what to do. But he said nothing was working. And then this little monk, because he was not too tall, this little monk came and he told us, well, we should pray and confess our sins and live in a simplicity of life. And he filled 19 monasteries. Wow. And I think this is something this example how we probably should think that we are supposed to do our job to grow spiritually, to follow this advice of these Holy Fathers, and God will take care of the rest. Connection with the, I said, a funny story. We are watching, it was like funeral of this elder Ephraim. I think somebody was broadcasting live on Facebook. So there was like procession to crypt they created they built they have in the monastery. So you had like floor was open, so they put casket down, and you could see that there were monks who took this casket and they carried somewhere inside, but those who were already up, they started to put these blocks, to cover that. And I said, I feel sorry for these monks who stayed inside. And Marcelka told me that, well, they're not letting them go out. And I said, no, this is like old monk's tradition that his disciples are staying with him. Yes, I am. I am, and I like to make these jokes, but, well, remember Ivan who was here from Medjugorje?
Oh, yeah, Ivan, yes.
And so he was here, and we had liturgy, and after liturgy, he had some speech in the hall. And we prayed rosary before liturgy, and he was supposed to kneel somewhere in the middle of church or whatever. And before we went to church, I told Marcka Miron that, well, this is this visionar Medjugorje, and we will be praying, and he will have vision during rosary. So don't be scared, and don't make noise. He will levitate. Yeah, they believed me.
Because they are innocent.
Yes, and I am bad. And I had to admit that I couldn't concentrate during this rosary, because I was thinking, what is going on in their heads? That waiting, they might probably are waiting. Is it happening or not? So I destroyed for myself this experience.
Oh.
I had to do repentance for that. But I have hope that God has sense of humor. All right. Thank you very much. I think that we are not going to start. We will finish 5 minutes. Or something has something to add to the topic. All right.